have to unmute myself. Hello. I have to unmute myself. Hello. To unmute. Okay, hello to everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on the part of the world you are watching from. Welcome to the closing ceremony of our first online IPA Congress. The time has come to say farewell. But before we do that, we have the opportunity to reflect on the last 2 weeks we shared together in this new virtual way. We will also have the opportunity to listen to the presidents of the regional organizations, and finally, Harriet Wolf and Adriana Prangler, the new IPA administration, will share their plans as our new president and vice president. As you all know, this is the very first time we have had an online Congress. This was possible thanks to technology that allows us to meet online, coming from different parts of the world, but most importantly, because behind this amazing Congress platform, we have an extraordinary team that has worked really hard to make it happen. I will take a moment later to thank them all. To be here today, as you know, we had to face the challenges the pandemic imposed on us. And we had to switch to an online platform, having planned the in-person Congress in the beautiful city of Vancouver. It is only at this point that I can say we have been able to overcome the impossibility to meet in person. The first IPA online Congress was a success that I feel went beyond our expectations. I participated in the ceremonial Congress sessions and in some scientific activities, but I also had the opportunity to attend many sessions, starting with a thought-provoking and stimulating opening lecture by Siri Husbeck, which I feel unlocked an open path for us to start with our discussions in a wide range of ways. Then we had an extensive program that allowed for stimulating debate. It included 4 keynote presentations, many panels, discussion groups, individual papers, community models, and clinical exercises. In all of them, each presenter and attendee were in a different corner of the world and gathered in the virtual space, where they created an atmosphere of closeness, togetherness, and even intimacy that for me was really moving. The scientific exchanges were also so alive and fruitful and offered the opportunity to think in a psychoanalytic way about concepts, technique issues, and about the practice from very theoretical backgrounds from different cultures in a respectful atmosphere and with a true desire to listen to what others has to say. The many ways in which our presenters and discussants have regarded the infantile have shown once again how alive and contemporary our profession is. Looking back over these 2 weeks, I'm sure that the infantile in each and every one of us had an important role in making this Congress possible. It contributed with its strength, vitality, and creativity, because the infantile is a force alive within us. It is a source of our creativity and for our capacity to be open to the new. The infantile carries within itself the hope of joy, the courage of being able to overcome difficulties and to carry on in every sense. Thank you. Now I would like to invite Sergio Nick, the past IPA Vice President, to share his reflections on the Congress.
Thank you, Virginia. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. The 52nd International Congress is coming to an end, and it is my task to provide some closing remarks. Today, I woke up thinking about the IPA Congress in Nice in 2001. This was the first IPA Congress I ever attended, and I remember feeling amazed to be there. At that time, I was very pleased to belong to the IPA for the vast range of things I had seen and learned, and for the friends I have made. Today, we are closing this Congress, and I feel something similar. And many had told me similar reactions. At the opening ceremony, we started with Virginia Unger's inspiring description of what the infantile would be, addressing not only the infantile related to the analysis of children, but also the one that permeates in all fields of the psyche, whatever the age and place from which it emerges. Siri Husted graced us with a beautiful speech at the end of this opening ceremony. At first, one would have thought, whoa, are we going back to the times of Piontelli? She not only did that, but allowed us to understand how very primitive experiences, like intrauterine ones, are expressed in human beings, in the arts, in the sciences, in literature, and in culture. All this closed by a pleasant interaction like the one she and Virginia had in the discussion. We started the Congress with mourning the death of a great psychoanalyst, George Canestri. With his erudite and vast journey into the infantile, not only in his relations with Borges, but in his relationship with culture, philosophy, and psychoanalysis. He set boundaries for the and said, the infantile is not childhood, and when it speaks, the speaker is not aware of it. That is why it requires a narrator, which could be a writer like Dickens. However, in the transferent field, it is the analyst who will play this role. The analyst who gives voice to the secret aphasia. Then Bernardo Tani's panel gave us a beautiful tour through the diversity and plurality of Latin American psychoanalysis, as well as a debate on the ideas of two representatives of the English school. I think the title in Spanish, Lo Infantil a Flor de Piel, is a better description of the keynote. He showed how the infantile is an invitation to discover a creative and reparative experience of what could not have been experienced as a continuity of the self as a creative impulse. It is therefore a resignification not only of the past, but also of what may come. Boni Litovich extended brilliantly what had already been presented in Canestri's paper, but from her linguistic background, the multiple dimensions of psychoanalytic understanding of the infantile. Following, we heard Glenn Gabbard telling us about the dragons of primeval days. For me, the highlight of his speech concern the risk of our own dragons colliding with patients' breaths. We must be aware of this, especially at the time of termination. Although he didn't name them, he made us think, evoke, and associate how they are present in these terminating times. I am no different. I am living this termination process, and perhaps, as Glenn would say, struggling not to terminate it. I think the Congress allowed us to go through the infantile in all its insertions, not only the social ones, but also the political ones, the communitarian, the current issues like the COVID-19 pandemic, migrations, fear, and especially the psychoanalytic clinic. I started the Congress remembering Freud and his equation between the infantile and the repressed unconscious. Now, we shall thank all those who had exposed their ideas, asked questions, and made comments to the expansion of the infantile's field. At this point, I believe we already have the infantile as a better established psychoanalytic concept. To finish, I would like to talk about the clinical exercises and thank the psychoanalysts who sent us clinical material, those who commented on the cases, those who read them, and the coordinators, making it possible to overcome a little the barrier of confidentiality. With this, we could observe throughout this Congress 16 psychoanalytic minds presenting themselves, allowing us to observe how each one thinks, how each one approaches the same clinical material, and how these elements blend into each other during the exercise, building a dynamic, comprehensive, complex, and human understanding of what each one has to develop in order to become a psychoanalyst. It is a privilege and an honor to be entrusted with such an undertaking and spend the past 2 weeks with psychoanalysts from different countries. I would like to extend my highest respect and most sincere gratitude to the joint efforts of all presenters and attendees, as well as our warmest congratulations on the success of this first online Congress. Thank you. Virginia, please.
Thank you, Sergio, if I pronounce in Argentino. Now I have the great pleasure of introducing the presidents of the 4 regional organizations, EPF, the European Federation, FIPAL, the Latin American Federation, NAPSAC, North American, and APSA, who are joining us today here for a virtual roundtable. This is what we used to do at the Congresses, a roundtable. Now it's a virtual roundtable, and they will share their reflections on the collaboration between the IPA and the regions. I'm delighted to give a word of welcome to, I will read the names, Heribert Blas, the president of the European Psychoanalytic Federation, Andrés Gaitán, the president of the Latin American Psychoanalytic Federation, FEPAL, or FIPAL, how it is pronounced in English, Mary Kay O'Neill, the president of the North American Psychoanalytic Confederation, NAPSAC, and Bill Glover, the president of the American Psychoanalytic Association. I would like to say to all of you how much we appreciate the respectful and fruitful working relationship we have been able to enjoy with you over the years, a rich collaboration based on a shared vision, which I'm sure will continue to thrive under the next administration. In this virtual roundtable, as you know, each of you will have a few minutes in turn to share your reflections. We are thankful to have you here with us, and we are eager to listen to your views. Please, now, Hedy Verblas. You have to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Virginia. Thank you all. Thank you very much for inviting me to this closing ceremony of our Congress. That was excellent, even if it had to take place online. I will speak about our theme, the IPA and the regions, from the perspective of my experiences in the EPF and now as president of the EPF. First of all, I would like to emphasize that the IPA and the EPF have different organizational forms, but are complementary and, in my view, need each other. The IPA is an association of individual members worldwide with scientific, administrative, and political tasks, whereas the EPF is a federation of 43 psychoanalytic societies with an exclusively scientific orientation according to its status. Naturally, therefore, the tasks of courses of action within the IPA are more complex and thus contain more potential for conflict than within the EPF. As is well known, however, scientific questions cannot always be clearly separated from political aspects. For this reason, it is very important and helpful for us as EPF to be in constant exchange with the political bodies of the IPA, and also to take advantage of the opportunity to exchange ideas with colleagues from the other regions of the world. On the other hand, it's important for the IPA to hear what psychoanalytic developments are taking place in Europe and within the national societies belonging to the EPF, and not all of them are in Europe. The same applies, of course, to the other regions of North America, Latin America, and increasingly now Asia Pacific. And it's very helpful for us in the EPF to learn what current developments are taking place psychoanalytically and, of course, equally culturally, politically. The IPA provides both the basis and the frame for this, and it's only the IPA that can organize meetings of all the presidents of national societies worldwide under its umbrella, as was just done 3 weeks ago. The scientific and conceptual aspects discussed, for instance, in the EPF, can thus find their way into an interregional exchange and policy options within the IPA. Conversely, the presidents can transmit to their members information and points of view from cultures of psychoanalysis other than their own. And the regional federations must assume an important reciprocal mediating function between the individual IPA member, the different IPA societies, and the IPA as an overall organization. And for me personally, and I want to underline this, it is extremely important not to see psychoanalytic theory and practice as monolithic. Psychoanalysis always takes place, and I strongly emphasize this, takes place in a cultural environment, which can give the common corpus of our understanding of psychoanalysis its own nuance, depending on the country and the region. And it's one of the special possibilities of the IPA to perceive these cultural differences, to discuss them, and if necessary, to argue about them, but also to promote a willingness to acknowledge these differences without having to give up one's own position for it. This may refer to very different areas, but it is this unity in diversity that the IPA guarantees, and for which we are also very grateful on the part of the EPF. And I think, as a remark to this Congress, the unity in diversity was present, according to my experience, throughout all the presentations of the infantile in this conference from different cultural perspectives. This pleasant cooperation with the IPA is also a basis for our projects and to our common aim to further disseminate psychoanalysis. Besides the excellent online seminars on the psychic effects of the pandemic, for instance, I would like to mention our joint e-journal, Psychoanalysis Today. I could say more, but due to the time constraints, I have to stop now. However, I do not want to close without both congratulating and thanking for this excellent Congress. Despite the limitations due to the pandemic, it was a thought-provoking, stimulating, and atmospherically warm Congress. One can feel this even through the screens. And finally, I would like to thank Virginia Ungar, Sergio Nick, Jan-Henk Dalevik, and the entire previous IPA board for the trustful and very cooperative collaboration over the past years. And I'm also looking forward to our future cooperation with Harriet Wolf, Adriana Prangler, Jan-Henk Dalevik, and the new IPA board. And from our contacts so far, I'm sure it will be an equally trusting and collegial collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Heribert. Now I invite Andres Gaitan to talk to us.
Thank you, Virginia. Good afternoon, good evening. Virginia Ungar, Sergio Nick, Harriet Wolf, and Adriana Prangler, outgoing and upcoming president and vice president of the IPA. Distinguished presidents from other regions and colleagues from all over the world, it's an honor for me to be present in this closing ceremony roundtable. Thank you very much for this invitation and congratulations for the excellent Congress we are now ending, an extraordinary and unique one because of the circumstances. As representative of the Latin American region for the last 9 months, I can affirm that the relation between the IPA and FIPAL is a very good one, with respect, collaboration, and common goals, such as the reaction to the pandemic situations that we are all dealing with, implementing distant analysis as the only tool we have, and searching and studying in relation to its effects in the analytic process. Or the community involvement, working with groups outside the analytic room and learning from the experience. In relation to our first joint program, the work of the Latin American Institute of Psychoanalysis, ILAP, has been fundamental for the development of psychoanalysis in the region. 15 years ago, in 2005, FIPAL had 10 countries out of the 20 that make up Latin America. All Central America plus Ecuador and Bolivia did not have IPA-FIPAL institutions. Following the experience of the Psychoanalytic Institute of Eastern Europe and taking advantage of the help that the IPA and FIPAL were willing to provide, ILAP was founded. In the period to 2006-2021, which includes the entire operation of ILAP, it has trained a total of 11 direct members of the IPA. It currently has 12 graduates who have fulfilled the academic requirements and 27 candidates in training. Panama is now an IPA interim provisional society, and the lab operates in Honduras, Ecuador, Bolivia, Nicaragua, and Guatemala. Quito from Ecuador and Tegucigalpa from Honduras are close to fulfilling the conditions to have enough direct IPA members to form study groups. Another joint program, this one common among the International Psychoanalytic Association, the European Psychoanalytic Federation, the North American Psychoanalytic Confederation, in association with the American Psychoanalytic Association, and the Latin American Psychoanalytic Federation, is the e-journal Psychoanalysis.today that recently launched number 14 named Racism, Caste, Class, Faith. We have more than 3,500 subscribers and months with over 4,000 visits. These programs are still functioning and growing despite the enormous health, social, political, and economic difficulties that the pandemic situation has brought to my region, leading several of our member organizations to postpone the payment of their social fees. We in FIPAL are convinced that this fruitful, respectful, and benefit relation with the IPA will extend and grow with the new administration directed by Harriet Wolf and Adriana Prangler. And we will work for the achievement of the new goals and shared visions IPA have and propose, and to increase the scientific interchange between Europe, North America, and Latin America on the IPA's common link. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andres. very much. And now I will welcome Mary Kay O'Neill, NAPSAC president.
Thank you very much, Virginia, and all the other members of the IPA board, as well as the organizers of this very successful and stimulating Congress in Vancouver, for giving me the opportunity as president of NAPSAC to speak at this closing ceremony. When the new NAPSAC board began our 2-year mandate in February of this year, I had the privilege of chairing a Meet the Candidates session. The previous board, in conjunction with the IPA, had organized this session for the members of NAPSAC to hear how each of the candidates running to be a North American representative on the IPA board intended to develop the relationship between the NAPSAC and the IPA. We were grateful to meet and hear each candidate's thoughtful ideas. All members of NAPSAC were encouraged to vote. We were delighted to learn that 2 of NAPSAC's board had been elected, and heartily congratulate all elected North American representatives as they are about to take office on the IPA board. From the beginning of our mandate, one of NAPSAC's goals has been to work closely with the IPA to ensure that NAPSAC is well represented within our IPA umbrella organization. But how can this goal be achieved? I feel very strongly, and I'm sure that the board of NAPSAC agrees, that personal communication is the most effective way of building collaborative relationships. Such relationships begin within our board, comprised of 3 organizations: APSA, the American Independent Societies, and the Canadian Psychoanalytic Society, as well as representatives from Japan, Korea, and Taiwan, which we're very pleased to have. Relationships with the other regional organizations, EPF and FAPAL, have been established through my participation in the IPA President's Meeting, in Psychoanalysis Today, and reports back to the NAPSAC board. I will continue to liaise with and participate in the meetings of the 2 other regional organizations. Our program committee participated yesterday in the IPA Vancouver Congress with its tri-regional panel, Annihilation, Collective Infantile Anxieties Resurfacing from the COVID Pandemic, and has organized for October 23rd in 2021 a virtual panel with representatives, again from NAPSAC, FAPAL, and EPF, entitled Body to Body, the Impact of External Reality on the Analytic Couple. EPF and FAPAL have also communicated with NAPSAC that they wish to create new opportunities for interchange between our regions. But most importantly, with regard to our relationship with the IPA, NAPSAC intends to be in close communication with the IPA North American representatives, both as a group and individually. We will keep up to date with developments within the IPA and welcome guidance from the IPA for our members, for example, on such topics as acceptance of diversity, distance analysis, and education. To know more about NAPSAC, please visit our website. I would also like to add that NAPSAC looks forward to working with the newly elected executive and board under Harriet Wolf's very capable leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Kay. Now we will listen to Bill Glover.
Thank you, Virginia. First, let me congratulate everyone responsible for a successful Congress, especially Sergio, Jorge Bruce, and the program committee, Katrina Gutierrez, and the exceptional staff who've adapted so well to the new medium. As we know, much is lost online, but some things are also gained. I have never attended so many sessions at a Congress with such close attention. Less social life means more time to think and listen. Now I want to express my appreciation to Virginia and Sergio for their leadership with such dedication, creativity, and grace. I had the pleasure of serving on the board during their first term and was impressed by their ability to keep the big picture in mind while attending to all the demands placed upon them. And I am confident that Harriet and Adriana will be able to do the same. At each board meeting, we would have a session for open discussion, and one that Virginia proposed was on the sense of belonging to an international psychoanalytic organization. And we had an hour and a half to go into it, but we just dipped into the surface of it. And it stimulated much further reflection for me. And at the opening of the Congress, Virginia gave us another prompt, a gift, when she, one that's very relevant to the theme of belonging, when she mentioned Derrida and his conceptualization of hospitality and solidarity. Hospitality is openness, generosity, and responsibility for the stranger, for the immigrant, for the other. This is at the essence of our work and our association. And of course, being Derrida, he also speaks about the limits of hospitality. Now, solidarity can be simply defined as being unified in a common cause, but solidarity can be standing together for a common good, or it can be solidarity against an other, which would be an instance of no hospitality. Now, hospitality and solidarity are manifest in Virginia and Sergio's initiative for psychoanalysis in the community, and they are echoed in Harriet and Adriana's focus on the IPA in the world. Excuse me. As you may know, APSA, its members, and its individual societies are reckoning with systemic racism in ourselves, our institutions, and our culture. In taking psychoanalysis to the community, to the world, there is emerging recognition that we must also bring culture into a psychoanalysis, into our theory, and into our practice, taking account of the cultural determinants of mental life that are present from infancy, if not earlier. In conclusion, all these speak to APSA's relationship with the IPA and with NAPSAC, the FIPAL, and the EPF, and belonging to an international organization with hospitality to each other and with solidarity together for psychoanalysis. We have more in common than anything that divides us. And we look forward to working with the IPA under Harriet and Adriana's leadership and with the board in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you all of you, the four of you, for bringing this not only very interesting but also moving comments. And we are really grateful to all of you for sharing this important moment with us. Thank you very much. So now it's the time to thank the many people who have made this great Congress a reality. As I already said, the challenge of not being able to meet in person was overcome by far, and the high level of our Congress exceeded expectations. I would like to start thanking you, all IPA members and candidates, analysts in training, who participated and attended our Congress and pre-Congress as well. Without you all, it wouldn't have been possible. You are the ones that made it come alive. I have to say that I'm aware that many of you had to make an effort to attend to our Congress. You also had to wake up early or stay up late due to the time differences. But now, taking into account what Bill said, we are able to attend many sessions because they are recorded and we can access it, I think that at least for 3 weeks. But we really appreciate your invaluable, and I'm speaking to all our members and candidates for your enriching contributions and participation. I want to thank our amazing Congress Committee, the Congress Program Committee, the overall chair, Jorge Bruce, the co-chairs from each of the regions, Irene Cairo, Clara Nemas, and Gennaro Saragnano, and Christine Whiteside, the IPSO representative in this committee. This incredible and high-quality team organized a stimulating and rich scientific program and were able to rapidly adapt to working online to make the best scientific experience. I thank Paul Craig, our executive director, and Nick Allen, deputy executive director. Thank you to Karina Gutierrez, our outstanding IPA events manager, with her calm, patient, and unwearying positivity, and all our IPA staff. They have worked at full steam. I can say this, at full steam with full dedication to organize this biennial event. Not only did they swiftly adapt to the new online format, they also worked tirelessly to make the best of it and to provide full assistance to our members. You know this, but it was like that. They were providing assistance. So we are grateful to our communications team and our website editorial board for helping us to keep our membership constantly updated, informed and curious about what the Congress has to offer. Thank you. Finally, I want to thank Sergio, the now past Vice President. Congresses was one of the areas he took care during our administration. And I have to say that he worked really hard to make this incredible event become a reality, working with great leadership with our program committee, our events manager, and IPA staff. Sergio, your dedication and commitment to making this an amazing experience were inspiring. Thank you very much. Do you want Sergio to say something?
Yes, please. First of all, I want to say that this part is shared by me and Virginia. I wanted to mention that we have to extend our thanks to CVent for the great effort and dedication in building this online Congress and in covering our activities. Their support was vital in adapting to this online format. Another highlight of our Congress was the simultaneous interpretation performed by the Bureau de Intérpretes, on which we received a good deal of positive feedback. I would therefore like to give special thanks to the interpreters who have been working with us at this Congress. Without their services, scientific discoveries could not be shared and developed, and books could not cross linguistic boundaries. What I wanted to say more about connecting to Virginia thankfulness is that a Congress like that is very difficult to build up. It takes 2 years at least. And there were a lot of people we cannot thank, but we really have there in our minds. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for taking part of this Congress. And I pass the voice to Virginia back.
Okay. Thank you, Sergio. It was, like Sergio said, it was a shared thanks from the two of us. So now the time has come to move on part 2 of our closing ceremony, where we will have the opportunity to hear the new administration's plans. I would like to take this opportunity once again to wish all the very best to Harriet Wolf and Adriana Prangler as they begin their term as IPA President and Vice President. Now, it is my pleasure to give the floor to our treasurer, Henk-Jan Dalewit, who will introduce the second part of the session. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, very good. Thank you. First, I feel honored by being asked to introduce the new IPA president. The president of the IPA has an important role in both the further development of psychoanalysis and the IPA community. It's a difficult role, especially because whatever you do as president, you never succeed in satisfying every different subgroup in our very complex IPA community. We shouldn't forget that the president as function is enormously time-consuming and does not go together with full practice and a regular family life. It's an almost impossible task to perform, both structurally as well as on content. Working with several IPA presidents, I have developed great respect for them. Of course, they were different in experience, in character, in style of leadership, etc. But they all had in common that they were very dedicated to psychoanalysis and the IPA, willing to put all energy, time, and knowledge into it, while at the same time having to accept that their goals could usually not be reached to the extent they wanted. About Harriet. I know Harriet for the last 2 years now. Well, she's pleasant to work with. She's interested, receptive, productive, and reliable. Harriet has also experience. She has an impressive history of leadership, next to her teaching activities as clinical professor in psychiatry and behavioral scientist at the University of California, where her special interests goes to clinical applications of psychoanalytic research. About leadership, there are many different styles of leadership, but leadership on itself, is that something that can be taught? Many say no, it cannot. Of course, all kinds of skills in leadership can be achieved by training, but basically leadership is mainly character, they say. Well, whatever it is, Harriet belongs to the group that's called born leaders. Individuals that take initiative, get things done together with others, have courage, and are not afraid of failing. Usually these persons have already shown these traits in primary or secondary school, in student clubs, university, and jobs. Like every leader, Harriet has ideas, concepts, and plans. And that is what she will explain to you now. Thank you.
Henk-Jan, thank you for your kind introduction. Adriana and I look forward to working with Henk-Jan, the IPA board, society presidents, and regional leaders to benefit our profession and all IPA members. We feel huge gratitude to Virginia, Sergio, and their 2 boards for their work during the last 4 years, and especially their heroic work during the pandemic. Today, I will give you an idea of how our work will be focused in the next 4 years, singling out 5 important areas. First, IPA in the world. Clinical psychoanalysis remains the primary professional identity of the majority of our members, including myself. But we may undervalue what psychoanalytic thinking has to offer in a broader context. Freud notably wrote in The Question of Lay Analysis, quote, "The use of analysis for the treatment of the neuroses is only one of its applications. The future will perhaps show that it is not the most important one," end quote. Adriana and I ran for election on a platform that featured IPA in the world. In the context of a perfect storm of international crises, we feel analysis has never been more needed outside as well as inside the consulting room. We share a commitment to exploring and implementing the ways in which IPA analysts can help our troubled world. We must keep in mind that consulting to any category of citizens who realize they could use help understanding and addressing the challenges they face requires a deeply internalized sense of clinical analysis. 2 of the most important components of the analytic attitude, in my view, are the ability to contain intense affects and the ability to tolerate uncertainty. Both capacities support a space for empathic listening in the context of conflict. Since becoming president-elect, I have met monthly with a group of 14 colleagues who use psychoanalytic thinking to address societal problems and intractable conflict. I formed the group together with John Alderdice, a psychoanalytic psychiatrist who received the IPA Extraordinarily Meritorious Service to Psychoanalysis Award in 2005. I sought him out because I learned that psychoanalytic thinking had helped him further the peace process in Ireland that resulted in the Good Friday Agreement in 1998. I wanted to consult with him about how the expertise of IPA members could make a difference in the current societal landscape. This was at the front of my mind after attending the 2018 EPF meeting in Warsaw. The meeting occurred shortly after a law was passed in Poland that made it illegal to speak about Poland's having had an involvement in the Holocaust. For me, this situation had the force of an alarm. False fact could become law. And in the US, false facts were becoming a political modus operandi. Fascist governments demanding a departure from truth-seeking were on the rise. Analysts at the meeting asked with intensity, what can psychoanalysts do? The exploratory think tank on resolution of intractable conflict has become an invaluable advisory group to the IPA. I look forward to bringing resulting insights and concrete plans to you during our administration. Our immediate plans are the following. First, to expand IPA in the community to IPA in the community and the world, and integrate the overlapping efforts of the committees in that section of the IPA with the help of IPA member Mira Ehrlich-Gnor, co-founder of Partners in Confronting Collective Atrocities, whom we will propose to the board as overall chair. Next, to build on the recent work of the Intercommittee Project on Prejudices and Racism to ensure continued required attention to systemic racism, classism, sexism, homophobia, anti-Semitism, and other forms of extreme othering that contribute to silent and public abuse. Next, to build bridges to professional and citizen groups that have psychoanalytically informed methodologies to engage citizens and professionals in approaching societal problems. Next, to institute a new IPA committee called Psychoanalytic Assistance in Crisis and Emergencies Committee, that would be PACE as an acronym, that will provide analysts with practical tools for helping citizens address natural and man-made disasters. Next, to create learning modules for psychoanalysts interested in consulting about conflictual issues in settings like the courts, prisons, schools, hospitals, governmental bodies, corporations, nonprofits, the creative arts. Next, to use our 2023 Congress to develop psychoanalytic theory further regarding the impact of the societal context on individual and group minds. And finally, to survey IPA members to learn how they are already active through local, national, and international psychoanalytic outreach and consultation, and make known to our members the many model projects that exist. Such efforts can help our troubled world and help the public recognize the clinical, cultural, and societal value of psychoanalytic thinking. The next area I'd like to talk about is communication. I have paid close attention to the process and function of the board of directors during my 2 years as president-elect. I've witnessed the reality of cultural and language differences and how they result in discovery and joy, and also in misunderstanding and distrust. The matter of communication has risen to the top of my priority list in terms of governance and the future of our profession. We need to communicate with one another and with the outside world in understandable terms. I have become aware that although English is the official work language of the IPA, understandably, many members do not speak English fluently. The challenge of a multi-language international organization is understanding one another sufficiently to solve complex problems. I have learned we must not assume we are making ourselves understood, nor that we fully appreciate what a colleague who has a different mother tongue is telling us. IPA languages and cultures are sources of richness and sources of difference. We plan to address the tension between the two in many different ways. We will explore translation capacities that make efficient, accurate translation possible and affordable for large group meetings. We will propose to the new board a plan to reorganize the Communications Committee of the IPA, building on the groundbreaking work of Romolo Petrini and his committee members, to focus on the audience we want to reach. We propose 3 subcommittees aimed at addressing 1, our external audience, mental health professionals and the public; 2, our internal audience, members and analysts in training; and 3, full and understandable scientific communication. The 3rd subcommittee will ensure we have consistent, understandable language in our communications, as well as thorough coverage and communication of what members and committees of the IPA are doing. There is much more benefit to members through the activities of fellow members and IPA committees than many members seem to know. The outgoing board has instituted a new method of enhancing communication between IPA societies and the IPA board, called the President's Meeting Process. We refer to it as PMP. It complements the link function of regional board representatives to specific regional societies. During a trial run that Adriana and I organized for the Vancouver Society Presidents Meeting, 12 interregional small groups of society presidents were constituted, and they will continue to meet online approximately 6 times over the 2 years, rather than just biannually at the IPA Congress. The goals of the PMP are for interregional society presidents to get to know one another, offer each other consultation, and open a channel of bilateral communication between society presidents and the IPA board. The next important area is finances. After 10 years of no increase in dues, hard work to reduce costs, and careful use of the IPA reserves to balance the budget, by 2019, the IPA was at risk for an unhealthy reduction of its reserves. In January 2020, the board voted to raise dues. Then the pandemic struck just 2 months later. Economic difficulties were experienced internationally, and devaluation of currencies further inflated the cost of the dollars that are used to calculate members' dues. Although the IPA has a carefully conceived system to offer requested dues relief to members affected by devaluation, many members worry their situation will worsen. Given these circumstances, the Dues Advisory Committee is expected to review dues reduction policies. The board will consider an extension of the 2020 COVID-19 Extraordinary Emergency Fund. We will propose an ad hoc committee of the board be established to recommend guidelines for a 2-year extension of the emergency fund and to review membership responses to a minimum dues requirement for IPA membership. The next important area is psychoanalytic practice and education. For some years now, the IPA board has faced complex policy decisions related to standards for psychoanalysis. The approval of the 3 models was a major innovation that involved a difficult process, but resulted in a sturdy acknowledgement of different psychoanalytic traditions. The incoming board faces complex policy decisions related to the conduct of analysis and of psychoanalytic training through technology. Decisions about distance analysis and distance training have a certain urgency, since analysts in training have been offered during the pandemic the suspension of rules that require in-person treatment. In the absence of clarity about our guidelines going forward, candidates wonder if they will meet IPA standards for graduation. It's not uncommon that we face pressure to act before adequate thought can occur. As psychoanalysts, we are prepared clinically to hold intense affects and the experience of conflict. However, in conflictual organizational matters, we risk making decisions that allow the imposition of one group's views over another's. In terms of distance analysis and distance training, we must preserve the ability to think together about our present dilemma and our future as a profession. An extensive report from the Task Force on Distance Analysis was considered by the old board at its last meeting and will be further considered by the incoming board. Our experience with technology during the pandemic may lead us to examine options that are different from those we have discussed so far. An approach that both recognizes differences and preserves common interests will require careful, respectful consideration of how differences can be compatible. My 5th area, final area, is vitality and unity in the IPA. Vitality and unity in the IPA was the discussion theme for the Society Presidents meeting on July 11. One group reported that they did vitality rather than discuss it. They got to know each other, compared cultures, and started a process of relationship building. Psychoanalytic experts in conflict resolution emphasize that relationship building is essential to conflict resolution. Many society presidents report concern that fewer members of their societies are motivated to take on leadership responsibilities. We need to look more carefully at all the possible causes of declining engagement, including structural issues that make volunteer activities more difficult, like having young children, or making less income than before, or enjoying less prestige in a world that thinks other forms of therapy are quicker and therefore preferable. These socioeconomic issues are, of course, relevant also to analysts in training. We will continue to strengthen our connections to IPSO and work to support these members of our community who are, as Virginia has said, not only our future, but our present. I have to say that engagement in the IPA has added immense professional and personal richness to my life. When we are thinking together or socializing together, we enter a space that is generative and deeply meaningful. I would be remiss if I did not mention before I conclude that I appreciate the passion of the other team that ran for office in 2019, Howard Levine and Carrie Kelly-Novick, and I hope they will continue to offer their energy and wisdom to the IPA. Too often, the administrative work that members undertake goes unrewarded, and it results in their being demoralized. In these intensely troubling times, psychoanalytic thinking has never been more needed as a tool for understanding, assessing, and intervening in conflictual matters. It's also a time when psychoanalysts have never needed one another more. I hope you will join me in valuing the immense opportunity we have as an international collective to make a difference in the world, in our offices, and in our relationships. We are in this together. So thank you for listening. We look forward to hearing from you and updating you on our work. It is now my pleasure to turn the microphone over to your Vice President, Adriana Prangler. Adriana, called Lali by her Latin American colleagues, family, and friends, has been active in psychoanalytic administration for many years. She was a representative to the board and a member of the IPA Budget and Finance Committee. She was Secretary General for FEPA. She was founding chair of 2 IPA committees, Psychoanalyst Immigration and Relocation Committee and the IPA Candidates Loan Committee. Just these few details highlight her commitment to serving her profession, her colleagues, and analysts in training. Lali has offered me many gifts in addition to her friendship. One is her knowledge of the history and culture of the IPA. Another is her commitment to our understanding one another. She and I have engaged over the last 3 years in communicating with one another, with Spanish, her mother tongue, and English, mine. We've worked at it, and it has not always been easy. At times, we spell words to make ourselves clear, and she frequently spells names for me. I plan to learn more Spanish, but meanwhile, I feel incredibly lucky to be working with someone who has absolute integrity, warmth, commitment to the IPA and psychoanalysis, and a wonderful intellect. We are lucky to have her as our vice president. Adriana.
Harriet, thank you so much for these warm words that were very moving for me. And I want to say that I am very honored to be with you today, closing this extraordinary and quite successful IPA Congress. Who could have imagined that Freud's heirs would be gathered today in a virtual Congress, each of us in our homes, in so many different countries, speaking about the infantile in its multiple dimensions, in different languages, from different theoretical perspectives, while overcoming the adversities of this terrible pandemic. But here we are. Our passion for psychoanalysis and the hard work of Virginia and Sergio's administration, along with the program committee members, our participants, and our outstanding IPA staff, made this miracle possible. Thank you so much to all of you. The history of IPA administrations meeting the challenges of world crisis goes all the way back to the founding of the IPA in 1910 and the way the IPA subsequently endured the world crisis of the First World War, the Spanish flu, the Great Depression, the Second World War, the Cold War, the rise of authoritarian regimes, and now the COVID-19 pandemic. I want to join Harriet in thanking Virginia Ungar, Sergio Nick, Henchang Dalewik, the entire board, and all our fantastic staff for the frankly heroic work they have done in managing the IPA in its various capacities during this time of crisis. The promise of Ungar-Nick administration was to bring psychoanalysis to the community, and they more than fulfilled that mission. Now it is time for the new administration to carry this work forward. Harriet and I ran for office with the goal of continuing the development of the IPA for the benefit of its members and for the benefit of the world. Communication is an important function of the IPA, and its importance has grown significantly in recent years, and especially during the pandemic. We want to be sure that the work of the members is conveyed in our communications to all our members and analysts in training, to the mental health community at large, and to the general public, in order that we may amplify our voice in the world. The IPA, as many of you mentioned, is an international association dedicated to the development and promotion of psychoanalysis. It is not a local or regional association, but an international one. It is dedicated to promoting psychoanalysis as it is practiced in different ways and in different lands. If we think of psychoanalysis as a tree, it has a core, theoretical and clinical structure we might see as a trunk of that tree. But it also has diverse theoretical and technical branches reaching out to different psychopathologies, populations, and cultural contexts. Our goal is to maintain the trunk and support the branches so that the IPA can continue to grow and bear fruit. To the new administrative team taking the reins, I joined Harriet in welcoming aboard all the regional representatives. Together we will work and dedicate ourselves to achieving the goals of the IPA. For the last 2 years, Harriet and I have been working to assume the leadership of our organization and prepare our programs related to IPA for the benefit of its members and the world. We restructured some of the main committees while assuring their continuation. Harriet already described our plans for the future, and we hope you are inspired by them. I am also very grateful to have the opportunity to work with Harriet Wolf. She has integrity, receptivity, and a confident, while flexible leadership style, and she has become also a very close friend. The benefits of belonging to the IPA are multiple, but at its core is its international nature. The IPA gives us the opportunity for international dialogue with colleagues who share our professional interests and yet think differently about them. In this way, we come together around our common interests and are enriched by our differences. This diversity is a treasure that assures our ongoing growth and development. When Freud created the IPA, there were only a few dozen members, and yet there were many differences between them, resulting in splits that could not be reconciled. Of course, out of these splits, a number of very creative analysts left the IPA to establish new schools of thought. Today, we are not just a few dozen. After more than 100 years of work and creativity, we have established an association with 13,000 members and 7,000 candidates in more than 50 countries around the world. Our association draws together analysts from diverse backgrounds. Reconciling our differences is not always so easy, as it means we need to find ways to stand on our common ground while leaving ourselves open to learning from others with whom we may disagree. That is why today, more than ever, we need to be able to own the identity of being citizens of the IPA, just as we are citizens of the world. We certainly encourage you to participate in psychoanalytic goals of your local and regional associations. But involvement in the IPA means setting aside local and regional interests while working with an international mindset to achieve a different set of specifically international goals. Our psyches were all shaped by our early childhood experiences, by the infantile in its multiple dimensions. But world history is also etched into each of our lives. I went through the experience of having to emigrate twice, first from Argentina to Venezuela, and later from Venezuela to the United States. I mention this because being a member of an IPA, recognized institution, opened the possibility for me to apply to another IPA society on a different continent. And I am very grateful to MPSI, my society in the United States, for welcoming me with the same status I held in my society of origin in Caracas. In the event you may want or need to emigrate, the possibility of reintegration into another IPA society is one of the benefits of belonging to the IPA. Another important benefit of belonging to the IPA is the opportunity to share and exchange ideas concerning theory and practice with colleagues all around the world, serving to open the frontiers of our minds. It is also a unique experience to participate on one of the IPA many committees dedicated to clinical issues, education, research, governance, scientific matters, publications, community outreach, the establishment of new societies, and so much more. There are now 111 committees. Participating on an IPA committee gives you the opportunity to share with colleagues from all around the world and maximize your impact on an area of special interest to you. Harriet and I hope that all of you feel and will be increasingly able to see that the IPA is you. You are the IPA, and that we all need each other for the ongoing growth and development of psychoanalysis. We are very much looking forward to work together. Thank you for your attention. And I think Harriet.
Yes. I was just going to say, thank you very much, Adriana. As has been said earlier, the vice president of the IPA is the person who oversees our large conferences and congresses. And so Adriana is going to describe the next Asia Pacific conference and also the 2023 Congress. So I'll just turn it over to you, Adriana.
One second. Okay. Thank you, Harriet. So I want to invite you all, I want to invite you all to come to our next two international events. The next Asia Pacific Conference in New Delhi, India, will be from January 4th to January 6th, 2023. Having this conference in India will mark the culmination of the Indian Psychoanalytical Society's centenary celebration. The theme will be Containing Diversity, Bridging Difference. This theme invites us to explore notions of diversity and difference in psychoanalytic theory and practice, in our clinical work and in our communities. India is one of the most socially, culturally, ethnically, and linguistically diverse nations in the world, so it is well acquainted with the challenges and benefits of dealing with differences. The program committee, chaired by Luis Geiler, is working hard to create a very interesting and exciting program. After having to cancel our Asia Pacific conference in Sydney due to the pandemic, we look forward with great optimism to meeting in person in New Delhi. And for the next IPA Congress in 2023, we are very pleased to invite you to Cartagena, Colombia. Colombia is in the northern portion of South America, bordered by Venezuela, Brazil, Peru, Ecuador, Panama, and the Caribbean Sea. We plan on being there, live and in person, to discuss psychoanalysis in the warmth of the tropic. It's a colorful city full of poetry. Cartagena's beauties and historical significance was recognized in 1984 when it was named a UNESCO World Cultural Heritage Site. We know you're going to love it. The venue we chose is a charming space, only a few steps away from the old walled city, surrounded by restaurants, shops, and colorful streets with flowers hanging from the balconies. It is also located directly on the port, from which you can take a boat to visit Caribbean islands with white sands and transparent waters. For the program committee, we are proposing to the board Adrian Harris as chair, Harvey Schwartz as co-chair for North America, Claudia Spadazzi as co-chair for Europe, Ruggero Levi as co-chair for Latin America, and Erika Lapiavka as an IPSO member representative. The program committee will be working for the next 2 years, organizing a fascinating program on the theme of Mind in the Line of Fire, which will give us the opportunity to develop our proposal of expanding our commitment from the IPA in the community to the IPA in the world. The local arrangements committee will also plan fun and interesting social and cultural activities. We invited Fabio Eslava, Maria Inés Nieto, and Luz Maria Orejarena from the 3 IPA societies in Colombia to co-chair this committee. I'm so happy to be able to count on all our staff, especially for the congresses, Karina Gutierrez, our event manager, in helping us in each step along the way. Colombia, as well as Mexico, was home to the Nobel Prize laureate in literature, Gabriel Garcia Marquez. He lived in Cartagena, a place that inspired him early in his career as journalist and a writer. In one of his books, he wrote the story of a 7-year-old boy who was desperate for his father's attention while his father was busy trying to solve some important matters. Eager to get the boy out of his office, the father pulled a page out of a magazine with a picture of the world on it, cut it up into pieces with a pair of scissors, and said to the boy, "You like puzzles, put this map of the world together and come back when you are finished." The boy did like puzzles and immediately set to work. His father figured it would take him days to complete it, but only a short while later, the boy announced he had put the world together. His father was shocked. "How did you do that, son?" he asked. The boy replied, "It was easy, Papa. When you cut out the map, I saw there was a picture of a man on the other side of the page. So all I had to do was put the man together and the world came together with him." As analysts, we help our patients to come apart and then reconstitute themselves and their worlds in a new way. At this moment in the 21st century, the world is in an acute time of troubles. The mind is in the line of fire, and we as analysts have much to offer. Come to Cartagena. We have a great deal to discuss and share. Now, Harriet and I will present a brief video describing our plans for the Congress in Cartagena. We look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
We look forward to welcoming you to the 2023 IPA Congress in Cartagena, Colombia. We invite you to meet in a beautiful location to pursue a serious set of questions. The Congress theme is Mind in the Line of Fire. Our theme was created and graciously donated by the organizing committee of the 2020 IPSO Day, which was canceled due to the pandemic. We selected this theme because individuals and groups around the world will have been in the line of fire for over 3 years by 2023. Exaggerated by the pandemic, inequities that dwelled below societal surfaces have come forward to challenge us all. Our international community has shared a perfect storm of environmental, socioeconomic, political, physical, and psychological threat and uncertainty. The aim of the Congress program is to develop further psychoanalytic theory about the impact of the societal context on the individual and collective mind. We have so much to share and learn from one another. We hope to see you there.
Come to Cartagena in 2023. We'll be getting back together again, live and in person, for the first time after the pandemic in the beautiful and relaxing Cartagena, Colombia. For this Congress, we chose an historical city filled with Latin American traditional flavor. This city, on the shores of the warm Caribbean, is full of culture and history. This is the land that inspired the novels of Garcia Marquez, the art of Fernando Botero, and has a rich pre-Hispanic past, full of art and tradition. Come to Cartagena. Let us celebrate life and psychoanalysis together. Ven a Cartagena. Celebraremos la vida y el psicoanálisis juntos. Te esperamos.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, Adriana, for, thank you for telling us about the Congress in New Delhi, the Congress in Cartagena. And I hope you realize how much fun we had putting this video together remotely, completely remotely. Seattle, San Francisco, and Argentina, and London. Karina played a very large part in this, so it was fun. We are not exactly out of time. We've all been so disciplined today about our time management. So I'll just make a few comments and then we can perhaps stop early. I don't know. I'd like to echo the comments about this Congress. It was a memorable scientific Congress. I think the topic of the infantile was prescient. You know, it came from two child analyst leaders who think about it more, I suspect, than us adult analysts. But it turns out to be a concept that we all benefit from understanding more deeply, given the state of the world. We are facing so much violence in the world, which I think is part and parcel of the destructive aspect of the infantile. And we are deeply in need of the creative passion of the infantile to reach solutions, to reach approaches to the conflicts that we face. So I thank Sergio for overseeing this, Virginia for selecting the theme, and I think, as was said, our interest in this concept as a collective has deepened considerably. I also would like to say about the Congress that the silver lining to our not being together, but rather being online, is that almost all of the panels, talks, sessions were recorded. And I've already been to more interesting events than I could have possibly done in person. So we have a library, as Virginia said, over the next 3 weeks, I think until August 21st, we have a vast library of very interesting, thoughtful presentations to review and more to learn. Well, I want to thank you, Virginia, thank you, Sergio, and thank you, Henk-Jan, for welcoming Adriana and me. We look forward to working with Henk-Jan, as I said, the new board, with its re-elected and its new representatives, the society presidents, and our regional leaders, who we were so happy to see here today. We appreciate very much each of the regional leaders' emphasis on collaboration and on complementing one another's functions. We really do need each other. So with that, I think I will say thank you and goodbye for now. We look forward to being in touch a good deal over the next 4 years. Adriana, you're on screen. You have something to say?
Well, so I also want to say also thank you to Virginia, Sergio, and Henk-Jan also for this amazing Congress. It was really an exceptional Congress. And when you said this is the first one online, it was a wonderful Congress to have online, but I wish we could have in person also. Our IPA Congress is every 2 years. So that means the pandemic is over. And we are, Harriet and I are very, very much looking forward to work with all of you.
Yes. So with that, we will close the closing ceremony and open our next 4 years together. We wish Virginia, Sergio, all the best, as well as the departing board members. And we've tried very hard to keep them on, but they seem to think it's time to go. So thank you for everything. And we look forward to the future. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.